This podcast is brought to you by Reimagine Radio, the online radio station that aims to give you information on disability and music. My name's Graham Wyman, and I'm a program manager with the Disability Foundation. Today on Reimagine Radio's Artist Feature, I'm joined by Simon Paradis and Paul Rigby. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for being on the show today. You both are doing well?
Yeah, you know.
You tell me, how are we doing so far?
So far, well, the recording started, so at least we've gotten that far.
I'm back.
Nice.
Yeah, good. I'm excited to do this. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, no, thank you both for being here. But just to, dive right in, Paul, I'll start with a question for you.
Okay.
Maybe you could tell our listeners a little bit about how you got started in music and what maybe the Vancouver scene was like when you were growing up.
Well, I saw that. I was wondering about that because, I was in Calgary.
Oh, okay.
Born and raised there. And I only moved here in 96. I was 26 or 25 years old, I think.
Okay.
But, I don't think it was dissimilar from Calgary, but different enough, I think. Right. It was quite different. Because even when I came out here at 26, it was just a whole new set of things. Like, Simon, you might recognize this. Like, I came out here and I was starting to play, I was playing jazz gigs and restaurant stuff. And even like going to funk jams or whatever and playing downtown at those dance clubs. And I noticed that the set of songs, even though it's just one mountain range away, were different standards. Like, people would study different standards out here than was common to show up to a gig in Calgary. And even the funk tunes was different. It was a bunch of tunes that I knew, but it would never considered to play at a gig. So that was one thing I thought. I think it was a little bit more Grateful Dead inspired, because in Calgary, nobody I knew listened to the Grateful Dead. I think like Working Men's Dead and all that stuff. And that kind of filtered up to like the popular funk jazz standards. I think there's way more, less changes, more root based. I don't know, more groove based.
Yeah, like standing on shaky ground. When I first moved here in 96, I had never really played that song with other people out east. And
that's so funny.
The same thing. It's like that one like serious tonic kind of relentless.
But
sort
what's
of
weird is that when I moved here, Calgary played, that was a song that everybody knew for some reason. But when I moved here, not many people played it, into Vancouver anyways.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So
see,
and that might be just my circle too.
Well, and that it's funny because, to be honest, I always thought, a little aside here, but I thought you grew up with John Stiver. And for our listeners who don't know, John Stiver actually was my guitar teacher when I was growing up. And you knew John. And so that's why I thought you and John grew up in the same neighborhood that I did.
Oh, he did? See, I didn't know that. So do you know Todd Taylor and all those guys then? You must.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
That circle. So no, that's why I thought that's how you knew John. Yeah.
But, in all honesty, those guys are some of the first guys that I met when I moved out here. Like within... you know what? The first night that I moved to Vancouver is a rainy, horrible night in November, maybe, or something. Okay. And I decided to go and see like what was happening in town. So I kind of picked 3 places at random and happened to see like Tim Hersey, Todd Taylor, and this Dave Vidal in the same night. And they're all ripping players. So I was just like, what have I done? Everybody's killing, But I just happened to go see some of the great guitar players in town at that time.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really weird. It was frightening. And it helped because I remember like the next couple months I practiced a lot.
Nice.
It scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, it gave you a little kick in the pants. So all right. And then... So you obviously moved out to Vancouver in 96.
Yeah.
And then...
and played and toured in bands. Played and toured with a band called Bocephus King, which got me around the country.
That's where I first saw you, actually.
Is that right?
The Powell River Folk Festival. You showed up and played with them. You pulled up in this, like, janky-looking car, this...
Was it
station
brown?
Wagon. It was a weird station wagon with the woody panels.
Yeah,
I think he even had like a B3 shoved in the back.
So hilarious. Yeah, like exactly. So started doing that and playing everywhere. And then we went to Europe. And then I met Nico for a while, and I've been busy with her since 2004,
right,
which is insane.
Just a little bit of time, right?
But it's so weird to me because it doesn't seem like that long. But I'm like, if you do the math, you're kind of like, holy shit.
Yeah, so there's always a reckoning when you do the math.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, see, my experience is slightly inverted because before I went to school in Montreal, I was playing a lot in London, Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I discovered the Grateful Dead because of the people I was playing with. And there was this huge kind of Dead community there of people who wanted to hear those tunes. Then I went to school in Montreal, and I came out also in '96 here and started on Hornby Island. And there was a little jazz jam there at a pub right by where the ferry comes in.
Probably with Tony Wilson and Dana, probably.
Yeah, well, Tony wasn't there yet. But Dana was there. I met Dana. Dana actually and I jammed together a bunch. He once played his trombone to show me where he lived. I just followed the sound of his bone. But what I noticed moving from Montreal is at the little supper jazz thing, everyone in Montreal wanted to hear Autumn Leaves, and when I came out here, everyone wanted to hear Someday My Prince Will Come.
Yeah.
It was like the delineation of like the style of jazz that they wanted to hear.
Very weird. I don't know if the Dead really hit. It might have been just the people I was with, but it seemed to have skipped the prairies kind of or something.
Oh yeah, no. It was, I think, a bit probably too wild and hippy dippy for a lot of people.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Did you have a lot of like extended soloing jam type bands in Calgary?
No, it was pretty tight. It was pretty tight. Like Maceo Parker was as big as that got.
Oh,
right.
okay.
Like doing those songs.
Right.
But even that had a really pop tight. This is the solo section, and it's over now. You know, kind of thing.
Right. So, funny enough, like you, Simon, you'd obviously seen Paul play, but when was the first time that you two met?
Funnily enough, I was. Oh, you want to take this one or?
No, I'm interested to see what you think.
Okay. So I was playing with this singer-songwriter poet named Joe Denham.
Yeah, that's it.
And we went into Vancouver to actually play at a venue. I forget, it was up 3 flights of stairs is what I remember mostly because I had to get carried up there like the king of Siam, you know.
Is it the railway or?
No, it wasn't the railway. It's like an after-hours kind of joint.
Yeah, I'll think of it.
Okay, and going. So I go up there, we get set up, we play, and we're opening for another band that's a really good singer-songwriter. And in that band, there's a pedal steel player. And he brought his rig. Anyway, his name, it was funny. Paul Rigby was introduced to me by the bass player we were playing with that night. And the bass player introduced him to me as Paul Pagat.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
I screwed up his name. And I had seen Paul Pagat play at the Garden Bay pub not too long before, and I was kind of like, wow, Paul's gone through some changes.
Yeah, weird.
It was like, he looked like a totally different guy. Like, is he in a witness protection program?
Oh, I forgot about that. That's right.
But then you ended up wanting to use my little Fender Blues Junior for your set because you had brought this big amp, but you felt like it was going to be too big to get the tone you needed in the small space. Yeah. Anyway, after doing that show, Joe Denham then wanted to get Paul to play on his record. So then Paul and I ended up doing a session with Joe Denham here on the coast, and we got to interact and be funny and talk about John Prine.
I'm so glad you answered that because I was like, yeah, right. I'm learning. I feel like I'm learning. I'm like, yeah, right. That's what happened. I totally.
And then the aliens took us to that planet. Yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of led directly to your record the year after, or not even that far after.
Well, yeah, and that's it. Yeah, it wasn't that far. I think I was just 4 months later after we were doing those sessions with Joe that I started doing Mouthful of Stars at my house with Graham.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
I held both of you hostage.
Yeah, no, that was again. I think Simon, we've definitely talked about that, but that was definitely a fun experience. And again,
how can you say that? You worked so hard.
It was my first record out of Berkeley that I'd done, and it was hilarious though because I can imagine you guys probably had a few conversations on what the process or what the record was going to be like. Simon and I had a 10-minute conversation, and I just showed up at Ray's place to pick up some gear, and then we went off and did it.
It was the most amazing scene. It happened in the pouring rain at night.
Yeah.
and I met Graham at Ray's studio because Ray was going to lend us a few essential mics and preamps that we needed. And I hadn't met Graham, just on the phone. Like, he had no idea if he was making a Christian metal band album or what. He had no idea.
Oh, weird. Yeah, that's strange to think that you guys didn't know each other.
No, I got the 2 executive directors ago said, I've got a request from an artist. It's going to be 2 weeks, but do you want to go up? I know, yeah, no, but I mean, it worked out so well, like having no expectation. And then, just...
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so Graham, anyway, we pull up at Ray's place. I'm there. Graham comes out. We've never met before. I open my passenger door. He jumps in the van. And at that moment, I say, yeah, I want to make a Roots record.
Just
how did you respond to it, Graham? Do you remember?
To be honest,
you said, I saw Questlove at Bonnaroo.
Oh, right. I thought you meant Roots as in, the band, not an actual Roots record. Right.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
No,
it was just like, yeah, okay, Roots, down with it. Good band.
Yeah,
okay.
Whatever. No, I mean, I definitely learned at Berkeley compared to when I left Vancouver originally. I was very closed-minded, and it's always like, no, whatever the client wants, you'll make it work.
Yeah, I need you to mic an out-of-tune acoustic piano in a room that has no baffles.
Exactly. Yeah, in the other room too. I think that was the one. It was just like, all right, how are we gonna do this? This one's like, I don't know if I have a long enough mic cable. I think we jerry-rigged a few together, but no, that was priceless.
Simon, do you have a lot of pictures from that?
I don't have a ton of pictures from it. Honestly, it's funny. We didn't really capture a lot of stuff that weekend, when it was funny because we had drummers in shifts. Like we had Sky Brooks for half the record and Pat for the other.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it was weird when they changed shifts. It was like the 2 guys on that Merry Melodies cartoon. Morning, morning Hal.
Morning, Sam.
Morning, Sam. Yeah, exactly.
So we did that. And then did we play together after that? Then I think
after that, I brought you out here to do some songwriting together. We did a duo show at the Old Boot Restaurant in Seashell.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, that was great.
But all 3 of us were also at Red Ruby Lake.
Oh, that's right. Well, for the CD release. That's it.
And that was another time, Paul, I think...
At the Garden Bay Pub. You played guitar in the band at the Garden Bay Pub, Graham.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that time. That was after. I remember, though, just coming back from the Red Ruby one, because I'd never been up that far on the coast, or at least on my own. And I remember we're driving back. I think it was Paul, you were in the car, and funny enough, Eli was in the car with us.
That's right.
And I was like, I hope because I think Eli was going to help us make sure what turnoff we had to take to get back to Simon's place.
Exactly. It's amazing.
So going back to A Mouthful of Stars, or at least this first record, what was the process like working together? Because Paul, you were coming in as a producer, but also as playing on the record.
Yeah, I think I just ended up playing mostly. So I had all the good ideas. Gotcha. So I just kind of, I'll just do this. And I think that's kind of what happened. My memories of the second record are way stronger. But Mouthful, I feel like I was just like kind of hanging on, doing what I could do.
I remember you letting me... Oh, go ahead.
They were pretty formed, those songs.
Somewhat. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of, like, you let me go through your pedal board to play a solo on one tune on Mouthful of Stars, and it was so great to, like, be able to go through your crazy satellite textured tone stuff.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a Neil Young solo. It was just, like, one really angry note for 3 minutes.
I love it.
So, hello there, kitty.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I'm even thinking of the second time that we went up there, because I think that was when we were doing a lot of your overdubs, Simon, and we brought in Walter, right, at that point too, because we had that extra week.
Oh, Walter.
Yeah.
Tasty.
What a sweet dude.
Yeah.
So good.
So I just watched.
Oh, go ahead.
A guy that I play with. I'm trying to think. It's all tied together because that place that you and Denham played here in Vancouver, the guy that ran that was a guy named Stephen Lyons, and I played in a band with him and Sky that night, I think, Limbs of Stars.
Right.
And I just played with them the other night, and Shanto, who's the bass player, son, was live streaming from Powell River in his jazz band that Walter heads up.
Wow.
Whoa!
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, he's busy up there. Anyways, yeah, sorry, Graham.
Oh, no. Always love those little tidbits. But no, so just going back to the next record, that was the second one that you two have worked on together, Grooves and Ruts. How did that production on this last record go?
Well, I actually, once again, I'll just go back to that time that Paul came up to the coast and we did a duo together, because we spent a lot of time in my dining room working on arrangements. And Paul was great. He was kind of like, okay, can we cut all that nonsense that you've got going on for these 8 bars? Like, it was a really healthy process for me to organize arrangements in my mind. And yes, so that was where things got started. And then all those for like a year and a half, and I started playing them with Jay and Boyd Norman just to see what they'd be like with a trio.
Right.
And that's when we started planting the seeds to get Paul in, and actually, he would be our stunt texturizer.
Which means I bring the pedal board.
Right. Yeah. Of course. No mandolin.
Anything with a string on it.
Yeah.
Do you have many photos from that session?
Yeah, actually, I got a bunch of little GoPro stuff. Remember the guy who engineered it in my living room? The guy who took his shirt off, and it was sort of that weird moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, he set up a GoPro with a time lapse on it, and actually got the setup and tear down of the adult pillow fort we turned my living room into.
Yeah, amazing.
And there are a bunch of photos and little snippets of us playing live, capturing a couple of tunes.
Great. Oh, cool. Yeah. I'm glad that is, because that was also a very cool experience.
That was cool. I'm also trying to chase down a full film version of the show we did at the Culture, because all I could find is my little 6-minute edited version that was put together for me by the film techs there.
Oh, but there's the rough footage somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere there's like the full deal.
Man, that'd be cool to see.
I'd really like to watch the whole thing, because there are some lovely moments, man. Like your pedal steel guitar solo on Lord Protect My Child still, is one of those like goosebumpy music moments, Paul. It's so lovely, man.
It was a good movie.
You were
play along to.
You were channeling your early Calgary country upbringing in that one. It was like gospel. It was like Sunday morning country music.
In 2018, you were both at the 30th anniversary concert, and maybe you can tell our listeners a little bit what that experience was like for the both of you. And I know, Paul, you even, I think, jumped on with Jim Burns at one point.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all the guys were there, right? His band, the Odds guys. I mean, to me, it was a kind of just a gig,
right.
I kept having to ask what it was. So I was like, everybody here is a really good, like, just happening thing. I didn't see how Simon and Jim were connected, but I was like, this is great. I love it.
Nice. I remember you rearranging, because I showed up to that with Joe, right? Is that the one where we played as a trio, right?
With Joe Stanton, yes.
Right, and so we were doing Wheelchair Blues, and it was just like 5 minutes before we went on to play it. Paul was like, hey, for my mandolin solo on this, can we do it double time to the changes? so it wasn't the same low. And so poor Joe, he'd never done that before, and it just like landed in his lap in real time on stage. But he was great, a total pro. He nailed it.
Yeah, he's a really great player.
Oh man, Joe's great. Joe's fabulous, man.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that night, I thought it was a pretty good night. Musically, it was really great. And my friend, whose name is escaping me now, but guitar player has it up on the table.
Richard Kwan.
That guy, one of my favorite blues guitar players, man. I'm not kidding. Like, I'm not really, gifting to the disabled guy, because, man, it's so good.
And real. And that was the evening he had that discussion with you where he was talking about how he started switching to darker textures. I remember you talking about that. And like, he was like, yeah, I've gotten darker with my playing lately. Yeah. And then he went out and played, and it was like, it was like John Lee Hooker darker,
That's cool. What I thought. He was like, wasn't that he playing with Colin James, right?
Yeah, at the end there was a big round.
And he was like, Colin James is the hot shot guitar man.
Right.
But I found Bernie's thing like incredible. Like, just musically speaking, like way raw and way tougher and way more hitting. But anyways,
there was something really musical about the way he kind of struggled with the mechanics of doing what he did on the instrument. Like it didn't impede the musicality; it actually enhanced it for me. Where it was like, I'm not hearing standard licks anymore; I'm hearing the kid. Yeah,
which is a huge lesson. You know, that's such a great musical lesson of like your intent is fantastic, and it makes that music. The message is right there for you.
No, I didn't hear one kind of like shoot from the hip lick in his entire oeuvre that night. Yeah.
Exactly. It's amazing. It's like John Lee Hooker with that kind of limited thing, but you're John Lee Hooker. Like, you know, you sound incredible.
Yeah.
So that was neat. And it actually had me like get in contact with his dad and just keep that up a little bit just to see what they're doing. And I had a guy living downstairs as a tenant, my tenant Daniel Moore, who's a fantastic musician. He played with them. Okay. He was all nice. He's in his band, and I was like, "Did I see you online playing with him?" And he's like, "Yeah, Richard and Bernie." And I was like, "Yeah, I've seen him play before. It's insane." And he had the same kind of viewpoint where it's just like there's something happening in that guy's playing that doesn't happen with anyone else, which is, you know, the whole point.
Well, and you know, and it's such a rarity to find fresh blues anywhere. Like, everything is like, you know, buried under the patina of, you know, decades of expected, you know, genre styling.
Totally. Yeah. I think of them a lot. If I play blues, which is very rare, I really try to channel that.
Yeah.
I'm playing music here, not licks, you know?
Yeah. And you know what? If I can keep going on this, do you mind, Graham?
Oh, no, do you?
The video you posted of that show in Hamilton in session with Steve Ray Vaughan playing with Albert King, doing that, doing that tune.
Yeah.
Man, you know, and in what Albert does in that... Hang on, excuse me. There's that lesson of that kind of like commitment to your own voice and simplicity within the way that Albert goes about his business right on that tune.
It just destroyed... Albert, a big guy for me, because it was the same thing. Like, the way he played was just so honest.
I think the thing that brought me to Eric Clapton was his like imitation of Albert King in the Cream era was the thing that like made me gravitate towards Eric Clapton's playing.
Yeah, Steve Ray Vaughan is the same for me. I was like, who do you keep talking about Albert King? And I listened to Albert King, I was like, oh my God, okay, this is...
that's right? Like Laundromat Blues, their personal manager, like any one of those tunes to me is like, you would not have Texas Flood without those tunes.
No, none of those. Yeah, it's literally like a tribute record or something, that Texas Flood. It's all those licks are there. You know, but honesty, that honesty in that playing is what that all reminds me of. And it's a good thing to remember, especially in that blues where you can fall into, you know, those licks are easy to play. We spent our teenagedom learning them.
And also, unfortunately, when we're playing pickup gigs, that's the thing that always gets the gallery immediately invested and involved, you know, where it's like, oh, there's some, you know, clever stuff coming out of left field and this guy's playing. It reminds me of the lightning playing of that person or this person, you know.
Yeah.
They want something that's blues demonstrative. It's more like blues theater rather than it actually being blues art in the moment, you know.
Totally. Yeah. So I try not to play those licks. I feel like there should be a penalty for me. Set up like Clapton, King, $50 a piece, you know.
Yeah.
No, well, I mean, it is interesting, again, as you said, like where the translation between the instrument and the person is just one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Transparency is a big deal, man. Mm-hmm. That's, I think, why I love somebody like... I really like listening to Billy Strings do his thing as a bluegrass player these days, because I find that there's something really transparent, even though he's playing a style that's like, it's timeless. Like, the things he's doing, you've heard Doc Watson do it, Tony Rice and stuff like that. But he's kind of the tip of sort of like the rock and roll aspect of bluegrass.
He's a rougher energy guy, for sure. For sure. He's neat.
Yeah.
I like that guy.
Yeah.
Well,
I think he's good for the style of music, you know.
He's really good. Yeah. Totally.
This concludes part 1 of my interview with Paul Rigby and Simon Paradis. For the rest of the year, Reimagine Radio will be going on hiatus. However, we will be back in early January with part 2.